doing today?
Boy, my camera's still not working right.
I know you look pretty good though. You got your Duke hat on. Is that a Duke hat?
It's a Duke hat, yeah. Dookies.
Okay, all right.
Blue devil. Devil with the blue dress.
Yeah. By the way, I don't know if anybody's in the state of the market yesterday, but that CRISPR stock took off a little bit for the rest of the day. I don't know about anybody else, but I don't know. That's was a nice one. Still down a little bit today.
Can't have everything. Can't have everything.
AG put another log on the fire. It's cold.
Man, it's cold. It's cold. It's cold in New York City today.
It's going to be this will be our first freezing evening, I think, for, since prior to spring, obviously. So
I guess you fire up the coal stove and off you go, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we had a fox last night chasing my chickens a little bit. So
they need exercise.
I missed but I didn't get a shot off, sadly.
I was skeet shooting yesterday.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. Oh. I got a little shoulder pinch today from that. Fired over 100 rounds yesterday with a 12 gauge. That'll kick the crap out of you.
That will definitely kick the crap out of you. I know I have to get a bigger, better rifle though. I'm looking at, for all of you that like to hunt or anything, I need something that will kill coyotes and foxes. I just think like a regular 22 should do it. But anyway, post in the comments if you're a hunter. You're like, what?
Get a little 30-30.
Yeah, I have a shotgun, which I don't really want to go ripping around.
Yeah.
22 mag. Okay. Like I feel like a deer rifle is too big.
I think for coyotes, yeah, it's probably overkill, as they say. Yep. So,
speaking of overkill, what did the Chinese do again this morning? It seems hollow points.
They didn't they shut down some more rare earth supplies this morning or something?
So, something along those lines.
Yeah.
So I believe we have a little bit of a agenda today for us.
We do. We've got the state of the market, the number one sector the government is investing in, is I think what we were calling it, right?
I believe so. And do you have any? And can you explain a little bit on the background of what's going on with this?
Yeah. So you want to go through a little history lesson? That could be fun,
so.
Right?
Yeah. Let's do a little history lesson for people.
Let's go through a little history lesson. So what the whole reason this came about is over the past few months, and we talked about this last week. The U.S. government has been taking ownership positions in private companies that are deemed critical to U.S. national security. The easy ones here are in the mining and metal space, particularly. For instance, just on the 6th, just a couple of days ago, Trilogy Metals. The U.S. took a 10% ownership stake in Trilogy Metals, and that thing went from $2 to $7. I don't even know where it is today. I haven't looked at it.
What is that? THQ? I think.
Yeah, THQ.
TMQ.
TMQ.
I know we have it. It's still. I know it's not TMQ. Oh, it is TMQ. Yep.
TMQ. Yeah.
It's still $6.5, $6.60.
Yeah, I mean, I think boy, came out flying on that news, and and this is another one where they don't even have all the approvals for the mining project yet. That is the subject of this, but I don't know that that's all that important. We're in a bit of a mania, right? And I say it's a mania in the sense that it's so new, right? So everyone's piling on and jumping in, whether it's whether it's this, whether it's USA Rare Earth, whether it's LAC, a lot of these companies that either have gotten government funding or maybe are on the cusp of getting government funding. But what I look at, and I know you're a big student of market history, Andrew, is let's look at what is there precedent for this and what happened after that. The theme I want to really talk about here, it's it's really long-term market growth, right? These manias, when the government steps in and helps support an industry like this, particularly when it's in a Cold War III against China and China's weaponization of these critical minerals against not just us but the Western world, this can create a very dynamic and long-term investment thesis for us traders. So, if you go back even World War II, right? You had, they called it the arsenal of democracy, where, the U.S., came together to fight, Japan and the Nazis in World War II, and the government directly financed and guaranteed the build out of a lot of critical manufacturing, steel mills, aluminum smelters, aircraft plants, shipyards. And what did that really lead into? Well, it led into what is today companies like Boeing, Alcoa, DuPont, Ford even benefited, heavily from that massive influx of money after the war. So the post-war, you look at 1942 to 1956, the Dow Jones tripled. Based on that, those large companies getting that huge benefit. And then we moved in the 50s and 60s, right? We had the Cold War and the nuclear age, and the Atomic Energy Commission and the Defense Production Act of the 1950s started funding uranium mining, nuclear materials processing, and aerospace R&D. The federal government purchased uranium at fixed above market prices, effectively guaranteeing a market, much like it did with that investment in Mountain Pass back in the summer, where it created a price floor, a guaranteed price floor for the minerals coming out. And the reason they did that with Mountain Pass is that China has been very good at weaponizing the prices of these materials to drive upstarts out of business. So, they want to weaponize pricing. They're willing to take a loss because it's state owned. They don't care, right? And then they can try and drive others out of the space. U.S. effectively came in back in the summer with Mountain Pass, created some price floors for them, guaranteeing a solid market, with these offtakes. So, and that's kind of the same thing that happened with, these uranium producers back in the 50s and 60s, like Kerr-McGee. What was the other one? Homestake Mining. They saw multi-year, booms of 5-10x from their stock price before stabilizing out.
Right.
Same thing with the aerospace contractors, the Lockheeds, again, during the Cold War, Northrop, General Dynamics, massive multi-bagger returns throughout the 60s. And then those prices, again, settled out. And then we have, 50s through the 70s, I would call it the space race, NASA, DARPA, these government-funded entities that funneled billions in. So although it was not direct investment, through these agencies, billions of dollars were funneled in. And again, that created the semiconductor industry. And what have, since then, semiconductor stocks have, some of them are up over 100x, right? So, really massive, growth from that time, time frame. And really, then, is that's still going on today? I mean, with the Chips and Science Act that we had a couple of years ago, and that really propelled Taiwan Semiconductor and Micron and some of these stocks to huge gains. So today we're in this energy and critical minerals industrial policy era. And, so far the big beneficiaries there have been, MP Materials, Lithium Americas, and now Trilogy Metals, with a lot of other companies like USA RE and others, riding coattails. And I think that, we can look in that sector and start, poking around for some amazing opportunities of stocks that are going to get supported by the U.S. government, but it's going to help the entire sector have long-term growth. So I'm very excited about this, if you can't tell.
I know. And also MP, that was something we had in Flash 5 and in cap gains. So USAR, something we wrote in cap gains as well. We're still have a long position in it. So these are all LAC, AREC, all these names. If you didn't buy calls, we bought some shares. And sometimes with the long runway on these, just buying some stock is the easiest thing, because you can see with MP, the thing moves around a little bit. But now that it's taken off, it's kind of up. It's on. It has liftoff. We should say.
Yeah, and keep in mind, like you look at MP, right? That was a SPAC. I mean, MP was a SPAC back in 2022, I want to say. I mean, they've not been out publicly trading for that long. I mean,
right.
This is a SPAC that came out at 12, or when it hit the ground running, and boy, they got some new management in, created this partnership with the government, and you're seeing what's happening.
Right.
And so, we want to look at, what are other opportunities. And one of the reasons, I think, we're holding like USAR long is, well, they've not gotten government funding. They're in talks with the White House. That's public now. They're in talks with the White House about potentially going that route, but they got a just crackerjack CEO. She came out of Siemens. And she's been just hitting the ground running hard, fantastic. Granted, CEO is a lot of marketing, but she's been running hard for that company, and it's just drawing a lot of attention to the sector. But again, you can't argue with the government influx of capital.
Right. If they decide that this is another stock to add to their list, then it's probably a $40 stock, $45 stock, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's some, there've been I've seen some ridiculous numbers coming out that are ridiculous. But I think if you get into that, if you get a double out from where it is today, that would be, I think that would be tremendous growth. Actually, I think up 50% would be huge, right?
Now, a little bit more on where does all the rare earth materials go? Where are because you were saying the Chinese have a stranglehold on them, but where are all the sectors right now that where they currently are going?
Well, again, like what is rare earth used for? By the way, people, if you what is rare earth? Do you remember in high school you had to memorize your periodic table of elements, which is always a lot of fun, right? And so you're memorizing the periodic table of elements, and if you remember, on that very bottom, you got the periodic table, and then there was always that one little block on the bottom that was just out of place. Those are all the rare earth elements.
And the funny thing is, you told me once, like rare earth elements are actually not rare. Like no, they're around. You just got to pull them out of the ground, right? There's a big regulatory thing.
Well, I'm sure you got a ton of them in your backyard.
Yeah.
You could probably start your own little rare earth mine. No, the problem's twofold. One is they're not rare. Finding the ones that we need in concentrated form, that's the problem. So right. That makes it economically viable to mine out. One of the reasons that China dominates this, and by the way, the U.S. We invented the rare earth industry. We invented the byproducts of rare earth mining. We invented the neodymium magnets. We did all of this. Throughout the 70s and 80s, we invented this. The Chinese didn't do anything with it, but what the Chinese did is they saw an opportunity. They came into the U.S., started buying magnet mines and other intellectual property from United States industry, and then once they had them acquired, shuttered all the plants in the U.S., moved everything over to China, took the people and everything, so took the patents, everything, took it over to China, and just very legally, they stole an entire industry out from under us. But at the time, it was kind of a languishing industry. So guess what we did in the U.S.? We didn't care. Right. We just let it happen. And we're like, all right, well, we're starting to ship all these, low level manufacturing jobs off to China anyway, just let them have it. And then, of course, the greenies, in the U.S. stand up and go, well, mining's a dirty business anyway. We don't want it. Let the Chinese have it. And, and so China went in, and sure enough, it can be very dirty. That's one of the problems some of the U.S. miners are having is, there are processes that are being invented that we're on the cusp of to make it cleaner, a cleaner industry. And, we want to do that. China doesn't care, right? China will, create a giant pit, toss sulfuric acid, into the rock that's surrounding the rare earth and separate it out. And, consequences be damned, will kill the entire water table. They don't care. They got 1.5 billion people. So they go in, they do this, they create it, and now they're dominant. That we've allowed them to dominate the market. In fact, I love history. The first time I ever heard the term rare earth was from Barack Obama, where he mentioned it in passing in a speech, and he said, there's this thing, rare earth, and we're probably gonna have to get our handle around it because China had done something. But then you started looking into it, and what you found is the premier of China basically said, rare earth is our oil. Just like Saudi Arabia has oil, and Saudi Arabia can control the world based on its oil production. Rare earth is going to be our oil. And that's what they've done very, very effectively. So it's not just the rare earths. I mean, we're now starting to get rare earth from different parts of the world. I mean, Australia is huge rare earth mining, but still 70% of the raw materials come out of China, but almost 90% of the finished materials are coming out of China. And that's what we're working very hard with some US companies to try and solve. So, I always point to like Mountain Pass and USA Rare Earth, right? They're coming at it from two different directions. Mountain Pass has an operating mine that they're taking materials out of the ground with. USA Rare Earth right now has the first functioning magnet plant in Oklahoma. And so MP is still shipping materials out. They're trying to build a big magnet manufacturing plant in Texas. That's part of the government funding they got, so that'll be coming online. But USARE they're still bringing in others' materials to make their magnets. So it's starting to come around.
Those are those. Now here is there was also you were talking about from a let me see here. All right, okay. So we have almost all of the US UAMY is another one that somebody mentioned. Another one here is on my list was PPTA. We had trades in and out of. You told me a little bit about this one before. This has been another one that it's been impossible. So I've been selling put spreads in this one, trying to acquire shares. And no matter what I do, I can't I can't ever buy any shares in this one.
Like long or just from an option?
Well, I the stock never drops enough for my puts to go in the money.
Gotcha.
And after I think I sold out of it around 17 and a half or something like that. I sold an out of the money call, which I thought was crazy at the time. And now it just keeps going up and up and up. But another one with this one, I found this was kind of interesting. PPTA is, who the biggest shareholder of PPTA is?
I don't know.
John Paulson, who was
really?
Who is a hedge fund guy. And he's also a big backer of Trump, and he was Trump's first choice for Treasury Secretary. But, Paulson's got his hands in too many pies, so to speak. He has an astounding amount of, he owns a huge chunk of this, and he owns several gold and rare earth mining companies. He has had a pretty phenomenal year this year. Like
he might be going to pile on with.
Well,
I said he might be.
Now I own some of this. Here's another one, right? So this is just gold.
Well, right? See, so here's the interesting thing about them, if I could.
Okay.
So Perpetua on paper looks like primarily a gold and silver mine, but that's not where the true value of this is. They also have a very large, and I always mispronounce it. It's antimony.
Okay.
And that is again, one of those critical minerals. So, that is where it's the stibnite mine out west in the U.S. And
Okay.
it is a critical mineral that is used in a lot of military applications. So it hardens. It can be used to harden other metals.
Okay.
So very very important to the U.S. And this would be, I think, the stibnite mine. It could basically provide, the U.S.'s entire needs of antimony for the military.
All right. I wonder, because if they just started, okay, so now let's just take a little look here. So this is something I like doing is there still is not a lot of long-term institutional papers. So one thing I do, I look at in these stocks is the option of fingerprints, right? Long-term buying. That helped lead me to MP last year when we were first talking about it, because all of a sudden a stock that had very little volume, long-term volume, Frank, started picking up 2026 and 2026 options. When we were looking at it at, I think September last year, when you said all the rare earth stuff was starting to eat up a little bit. So that MP was like 12, 13, and there was accumulation. Now, what's weird with MPPTA is there is very little long-term call purchasing in here. There's been a lot of short-term retail speculation. Now, March 2026, I'm going to say that is getting there, right? Going out to March, generally retail does not buy an $8 call, or these calls are much more out of the money. So this is, I would say, a little more significant. There is big dollars. Again, retail doesn't generally buy 9-month options. They buy 1-month options, 1-week options, 2-month options, stuff like that. They're not going out and buying 6-month options in general. So one thing to keep an eye on, especially for a stock like this, is there going to be big accumulation out here? November 2026, Jan 2027. This is starting to build a little bit, but I think it's worth keeping an eye on for this particular stock. And so far, the accumulation, like the institutions haven't really jumped in yet. And I don't know if it's because the stock is more thinly traded or what the reasons are, but just, I would say it's a good thing to keep an eye on here for PPTA. I think there's still, a great future for this company, but also for another, you like to always have a hint where some big money is starting to climb in. Now, Paulson already was a buyer of this. So do I think it's a bad idea? You buy the stock, you buy the leap, buy a call spread, something like that. I don't think it's too bad of an idea. Here's another Paulson pick that we had in capital gains, THM. This stock has made a little bit of a move. This is another small gold miner. Again, pretty speculative. I own some of this. But again, it's another Paulson holding, and it seems like his holdings are doing well. His cost basis is really low in this WA. So
it's THM, right?
THM, yeah. I got to remember the name escapes me. International Tower Hill Mines. So
yeah, I did a little trade in that last week, made some good money on it.
Yeah. So I think there is more to this. And again, this is all stuff we cover in capital gains if you're interested. But next week, I'm going to use using kind of my option fingerprint technique, we're going to look at Maha stocks with a little help from Frank here on this, on when he does a little deep dive behind the scenes on what's going on. I'll be introducing fingerprints on some Maha stocks and what I think will be kind of the next leg, right? We want all this rare earth stuff is all exploded right now. So I'm always looking for the next area to explode. So if you look at, let's say, MP, right? You know, the stock languished for a couple of years here, right? Not much is happening, and then all of a sudden blows up. You want to look for stocks that are going to sort of reignite, blow up again, become a real stock again. So I'll be talking on that. I think it is Tuesday, in the Tuesday afternoon. I'll be covering this, looking at our fingerprint and the routine for finding, the next stocks that can rip. So that's, anyway, look for that on Tuesday. And hopefully with a little help from Frank, a little help from the fingerprints, we have a good batch of stocks as RFK Jr. is making America healthy again.
I love your fingerprints. They're awesome.
They have been good to me. And with that, I guess that is it. So again, click the link, save your seat for Tuesday. And like I said yesterday, I liked CRISPR. And I like biotech in general. It had a nice little pop, although it's down today. But I think we'll see more of that. And you'll learn more about that next week on Tuesday.
Love it. Good talking to everybody.
All right, Frank, thank you for coming in.
Always. Love it.
Go do your stuff. And we had some names. We had some fun. We got some education. And now it's off to our trading day. All right, everybody, have a good day.
Take care.
Thanks, Frank.